We'll start with a brief anecdote about my meditation experience. Back when I used to go
camping in my camping days, a year and a half ago, went down to Baja, camp on the Sea of Cortez, got a camp spot right on the beach, and there were like 7 or 8 camp spots down the way, and I heard somebody pull up to the camp spot that was 10 feet away from me, and I heard babies crying. Twin 1-year-old girls. And I was up in the Palapa, it's just like this open fence thing, but had a little barrier around it. And I thought, oh, okay, camping. Come on, geezer. Don't be such an old curmudgeon. And they turned out to be wonderful people, Canadians. And the woman came over, because I would do my meditation, down where they could see me. And she came over one time when I was finishing, and she said, so sorry the babies were crying. And I told her, you know what? Noise like that just gets me to focus back on my breath. The only noise that I can't really handle is rock and roll, because rock and roll is designed to elicit, the heartbeat, and it's really disruptive. The leaf blower, 20 feet away, what's his name? Doing the leaf blower.
Oh,
Chris. I just go right to I can't nap through it, I can't sleep through it, but I can meditate through it. So anyway, but I have accumulated these approaches to meditation over 49 years. I took TM, Transcendental Meditation training, in 1973. And so that's 49 years. And so I'll just reflect a little bit on my experience. I discovered the meditation bench, and I'm going to get down on that. But I want to show you this first. I'll talk about why the posture is so important. But this is my travel one. It's folding. They're on eBay, and it's actually the lowest cost of these kneeling meditation things. You can take it apart. It's very light, and you can put it easily into a carry-on bag. I discovered the meditation bench at Harbin Hot Springs. Has anybody been to Harbin Hot Springs before it burned down?
Yes, before it burned down.
It was an amazing place. I used this position. I discovered this 25 years ago at Harbin, one of these. It didn't have the folding legs. I got out back at that time. I found, that was pre-internet, and I got a folding type, and this goes over my legs, and then I have just a kind of a board thing that's this, so that my feet, this time of year I can do barefoot, but my feet kind of go over the edge in the back there, so that I can do the amount of time that I want without my feet falling asleep. All right, I need to get my notes out. There it is. So I just wanted to show, I have used before, when I ended up in a hotel room, I've used a wastebasket, a metal wastebasket. I've used, you could use a soccer ball or a basketball or anything. I've had to innovate in the past.
I'm trying to make sure that you're seeing so Betty can see you and not have her head cut off. I keep coming over here and adjusting.
So this posture that I discovered is so important because my spine is perfectly erect. And I used to sit like that, but if you do this, I guarantee you're going to feel a big difference. I unbutton here, make sure when I breathe, when I inhale, that my stomach goes out, because that gives your lungs that it relieves whatever pressures is on the lungs. I do my meditations outdoors, even when it was 106 the other day. I have a shady place. I do all of my meditations outside, but I do have a nice private shady place in the back of my house. I do want to keep this in the first person, like I do this, I do that, instead of you should do this or you could do that, okay? Because I'm just sharing, like Francie already said, you probably know a lot of this. These will be just variations of what Francie has probably said or what you have tried, but I think there are going to be some new things too. And you can laugh. I tell my students, I get into this position, I teach at Sac State biology, and we go through all the personal biology for 2/3 of the course, and then we get to global, climate change and all that. But it's an introductory biology course for non-science majors. So out the window goes meiosis and mitosis, the Krebs cycle, all that stuff that the pre-meds and pre-nursing have to take there. And I just go straight to the things that are going to be issues in these kids' lives. And it's 2/3 Mexican-American kids from around Sacramento who don't have the family background to, the study habits to get them into the UC system, right? And so I get these kids, they decide they want to go to university and it's their first year and kind of teach them how to, I give them, it's fun. A lot of them are afraid of biology, afraid of science, and they end up really liking it. But I do this because the pandemic, when we started 2 years ago on Zoom, where we were transitioned from the classroom to Zoom, I had to come up with this all in the protocol. And the first week I got down on my knees in front of the camera on this, my webcam, and showed them. I went through the tools for relieving anxiety, because anxiety and stress and depression tripled. The rate tripled for that age group and students. And these kids, and I call them kids because they're 18, 19, a lot of them are stuck at home with 2 or 3 siblings in the same room, younger brother and sister, and they're trying to take a university course. The stress, so I've researched meditation. There's a book called Charlie Tart's course at UC Davis was known as Altered States. It was a legendary class. He wrote a book called Altered States, and there was a movie that they made. Remember the movie Altered States with, what's his name? An actor?
I'm going to go sit over here.
A late actor. Well, the book that is about the research that's done on meditation is called Altered Traits. It's a takeoff on Altered States. And it's a good one because it's about consciousness. And so that book has all the research. These two research it for 40 years. They admit and they talk about the problem of getting good data, good research. So what they do is a lot of what is known as meta-research. Sorry, I'm going a little longer than I thought. But meta-research, metadata, is when they put together 40 different research experiments on meditation, and then they come to a conclusion putting all 40 of those together, because each one of those is not enough for the scientists, for the medical people. Those scientists are brutal, right, Francie? They will just throw everything out the window if it's not statistically robust. But when you put together 40 studies or 30 studies, and you can, there's a specialty called meta-analysis, which they can then come out with valid data, and that's what they do in this book. But they show the results, altered traits. They show the reduction in anxiety, the reduction in depression, and then the increase in compassionate behavior and thinking. And that was kind of new to me, that our compassion actually is helped, is increased. Okay, so that's kind of so I get in front of the students and I show them that research, and then I say, it's all right to laugh at me, this eccentric professor. I'm not a professor, I'm a lecturer, but they all call me professor. And they're all too polite and respectful to laugh. I say, come on, it's all right to roll your eyes and laugh, and they're just so quiet and respectful. But I'm sure after class, after I'm gone, they all roll their eyes and laugh. But the thing about getting down there and having them laugh is that it goes into the memory bank. So 20 years from now, a peer, someone will say, maybe a cousin or a friend will say, I'm dealing with anxiety too and depression, and I've been doing meditation. And so it's a triangulation, because that they remember back to this Professor Lauder. Oh yeah, he showed us that research. 20 years it can be. And then it's a triangulation, because then that peer, it gets a lock, and then theirs is the person 20 years from now. So that's why I get down and do this in front of the, last fall we had 2 sessions in the classroom, and I went over and did this, and And so it'll be much better in their memory. And these days, the way things are, if we can get the concept and the key words for the rest of their lives, they have the universe of knowledge right here in their phones, Google. And all they have to do is have the concept. Google is even if they've forgotten the key word, Google will figure out when you put in a concept, and then they can remember back. So they don't need to, I don't need them to recall, and write everything down like the old way of the exams, and they hated exams, they failed. All right, so that's that. I do want to say a few things. One thing about meditation for me, and I do a mantra meditation that Transcendental Meditation, TM, teaches you. And when I took the training, I told them, they asked me not to tell anybody my mantra, and I've never told anybody except a TM trainer, and you can get checked, and you can tell them, okay, and then they'll say, well, it's slightly this way or that way. But when I wake up in the morning, I can be depressed and in a bad mood, but I know that my meditation will flip that. I can flip it. It's and I think that is a really important thing to remember. I can turn that around. I can turn that difficult feeling. Sometimes it's just like, I can't, And so I walk Coco around the little block here, and then I do my first meditation. Now, I think it's really important to use a countdown timer. Come on, I don't have my case on it. I set the countdown timer, and I can let go of time. I have to do that. Because I don't want to be opening my eyes and looking at the clock. And yet I need that
freedom from time.
So I have a countdown timer that's set to my amount of time. This is not the amount of time, but this is just an example. And I'm not even going to tell you what amount of time that I meditate, because everyone has to have their own. What I do think is really important is to set a short amount of time for your meditations. I shouldn't say your. This is what I recommend to the students, because if you want to maintain something, if you're just starting out with meditation, I guarantee after 2 months, it's going to be getting old. And there are going to be times in the morning when, I don't have time, and you just sort of let it go. And so I set a time, and I recommend to my students to set a time that you can always do. And so for my students, I say set 3 minutes. 18-year-olds, 19-year-olds, set 3 minutes, and you can always do 3 minutes. You can get up 3 minutes early, you can sit down, and then I guarantee you there will be times when after 2 minutes you go, oh, what was I in a hurry about? Go shopping? I don't need orange. I don't need spinach. I don't need that, this and that. And I feel a little bit dehydrated, and so I have a restart. You can let it. This thing is going to. I'll let it play out, and I'll just. And so I do 4 of those different meditations, 4 or 5 yesterday. I did 5, sometimes 6. But I won't tell you how much time it is, because I don't think it is good for anyone to push themselves beyond what they really feel like doing in meditation. Okay, I don't think, it doesn't do me any good anyway. All right, so the timer is I think very important, and all of the phones have countdown timers, and you can set it to your time, put it right on the front of the phone, boom, you start, you let go of time. The other thing that is important to let go of is when I think, oh, I gotta call Francie. Okay, Google, remind me in 30 minutes to call Francie.
Got it. I'll remind you at 12:02 p.m.
Okay, that is really important for me, because I can let it go. Now, you don't have, all of the phones have this voice assistant, but iPhones have Siri, or whoever.
Yeah.
You can just keep a notepad. But for me, I need to let that go. I'd have my shoes here and I'd put one shoe inside the other and like standing up and I'd finish my meditation and go, what was that for? Completely forgotten. All right, I'm almost done. The first part of my meditations, it's all right. I give myself the room and the permission to just process the previous day, the previous morning. Okay, there is my time's up, all right? And so I can press restart and do another one. I give myself the permission to just debrief. I don't try to suppress thoughts. And it's important for me to like, okay, I had this interaction, maybe I interrupted once. I don't want to do that again, that kind of thing. And then the next stage is I go to, okay, what am I going to do? And I plan my day. That's all right. I do that for the first half of many of my meditations. And then, and I have my eyes closed. Sometimes I'll do it for the entire meditation when there's a really busy time. But what happens is that when I close my eyes, I see these shadows and things kind of moving. And that means, I need more time. And so I'll press restart. And that until I can let go of what I've done and what I'm going to do and the plans and things, it's okay, out the window. And then I'll do the voice thing. I'll say, okay, remind me to do this, remind me to do that. So I can let that go. And then my meditations are I'm free of those things. The other thing that I want to say for people is that sometimes for people who are feeling any grief, any pain, emotional pain, and physical pain, they've shown meditation helps. But those things don't just float away. When I'm feeling something strongly, I just let it sit here and I breathe into it. The thoughts of what my day, what happened yesterday, and what I'm going to do, those things come and then I'll do a thing and then they kind of float away. But try to push away things, and I'm sure Francie has talked about that. I'm almost done. My second meditation and third, I do a lot of work on the computer, putting together my lectures. I scan the science news every day. I'm an info junkie, especially for science, evolution, and all that. And I say things and I put it into a PowerPoint that's going to be in the fall. And then, but our brains, and I check my email, and I do all this stuff, and I write, and our brains, we overuse our brains. We use our brains in a way that before 1,000 years ago, 2,000 years, our brains never were were impacted by the stuff we have today. And so I need those meditations to just I get oxygen. I actually do a lot of breathing. I don't do fast breathing, but I breathe and I just let that oxygen in to get to my brain to be able to store whatever I was doing and get me back down again. And last thing I'll just comment on is, I don't know whether Francie talked about it, but in Ayurvedic, there is a nostril breathing. You breathe it up with one nostril, and then you change over and breathe out the other nostril, and then in that nostril, and then out, and you alternate. And there is an effect on the mind, on the brain. And I've actually seen the science. I've seen some research done, and I'm sure it's been completely laughed at and ridiculed by many of the narrow-minded scientists. But the left nostril feeds the right brain, which is our not scientific side, which is what I need to do. So sometimes I'll do twice, two right, left nostril to get the right brain going, and so the only other thing, I think if you're interested in those things, there's a book called Breath.
Yeah, we talked about that.
All of you know it.
Yes.
Women are really, you're up on things.
The audiobook is the best.
Okay,
It
I
does
got
all
it.
these exercises
Yeah, I
at
did.
the end.
I got it. I do all audiobooks, and I listened to it, and that's right. I did the audiobook, and then I bought it because I use it, because the bibliography is just as good as the text. There's so much stuff in there, and it was in that bibliography that I saw the research. He mentions the research about nostril breathing, showing that it did have an effect on part of the brain. Thank you so much for listening. Did I go beyond my 10 minutes? I think I did.
I would like to add a couple of reflections about meditation. Meditation is not a panacea. It doesn't, I think, cure everything. What I think it does, though, meditation, regular meditation daily meditation over years, in addition to what they say, the book Altered Traits, in addition to those things that I already put in there, I think meditation strengthens, and I guess I could say potentiates, whatever strength you have, whatever your calling is. For me, it's creativity. And it really has, I guess, potentiated my creativity. That is my strength. Exploration, coming up with synthesizing things. It hasn't increased my intelligence, which I wish it had. It hasn't increased my strength, although it has been really important in helping me to maintain the strength, physical strength that I have, and to deal with my paraplegia. I'm about 50% paraplegic. I can walk, a couple hundred yards a day, and that's it. So my meditations really help me to do things, to deal with that creatively. And so you'll see that I overpost. This whole video is a result of having to sit in my Santa Fe, Barca lounger chair in front of the 75-inch. So if you look on my Facebook page, you will see, if you scroll down, that I have put a posting there about one of my hobbies or passions, and that is men's designer fragrances. And I picked it up 20 years ago, and it helped me to be open to that, and that idea that explains how I got into it. And then, a couple of years ago, I thought, I came up with, the idea of, hey, I'm going to come out about this to my friends, because, these compositions, they are artistic compositions. It's an art, just like music. And so I'm going to come out about it because, so many people, especially in the Western U.S., are just like, oh, no, I don't do any, of those things, perfumes. And, well, okay, so if you listen to, if you hear cheap pop music on commercials and TV and on the car radio, do you not listen to great music that you buy and by artists who've spent their lives creating great compositions? Well, it's the same thing with fragrances. They are all almost all natural essential oils. Anyway, you can read about that. That part of my sort of creative approach to life. Okay, so getting back to meditation, and I'm relating to meditation here. Meditation can get you, can help you manage your immune system. All right, it is the immune system that causes allergic reactions to smells and fragrances and things. And it has very little or nothing to do with whether it is synthetic or natural. The most allergenic ingredients in the old classical perfumes and colognes were natural essential oils like oak moss and jasmine, and they've come up with synthetics that the professionals can't even tell the difference, and yet they're non-allergenic. And so the best source for this is to watch the videos of Wim Hof, otherwise known here as Wim Hof. His videos about how he has completely taken control of his immune system and can dive into ice water and swim for 30, 40 minutes in ice water. They can dose him with pathogenic bacteria, E. coli, that make normal people sick, but the sickness comes from a reaction of the immune system. And so his immune system shuts down that reaction because it's not that particular bacteria, whatever E. coli is, it is 0157 or whatever, isn't going to cause him any harm. So he shuts it down. So anyway, there's the link, or the Google search keywords. And so maybe, just maybe, those of you who say you are allergic to scents, maybe you can then sort of bring those into your life, because these fragrances are artistic compositions, and you be sure to experiment with the higher end perfumes and colognes, because they have the best ingredients, and it'll cost you, all right? But you can get samples of the $75 perfumes and colognes. They're on eBay. Just do a search for sample, and you can get them for $4 or $5, and it'll give you 5 to 10 trials to see whether you like it. Okay, so anyway, that's how I tie back this hobby into meditation, which is a really good way to help manage your immune system.